Hello folks, today we're going to have a quick tutorial on how to replace a hard drive. Now, the rage today of course is the NVMe drives. They're about the size of your thumb. And prior to that, the 2.5-inch SSD, which replaced spinning hard drives. But there's still a place for spinning hard drives. Most notably, people use them today in NAS or network attached storage devices. But in this particular case, I'm going to be installing one inside my new PC. And the reason I'm doing that is because I've been backing up to these Western Digital drives for a long time. As you can see, I tagged this one as a 3 terabyte. I also had to upgrade eventually to a 8 terabyte because it just didn't fit. And that 8 terabyte has been serving me well, especially since I moved my Plex server off to a separate machine, and that's backing up to iDrive. So I don't need to worry about that anymore. I know it's good to have something local, but it's a brand new 8 terabyte drive on that one. I don't expect anything to happen to it soon. And if it does, I'd have to download all my Plex data, but that's okay. I'm not too worried about that if it takes me, several days to download it. I have hundreds of movies in there. But in place of this, by the way, these are going for about, the 8 terabyte versions are going for about 160 bucks on Amazon right now. And oddly enough, this just a bare hard drive, which is actually inside that thing, is going for about the same for the 7,200 RPM one. These are on sale right now, the 8 terabyte, the BarraCuda ones, for $109. So this thing is right now sitting on top of my rig, which I don't like, so I'm going to get rid of it, the 8 terabyte version. I'm just going to move it off to the side. I'm going to put the 8 terabyte hard drive. I already have a 2 terabyte regular hard drive in there, and it's not doing anything. I just haven't used it. It's not big enough to do any backups, and it's too slow to do any kind of video encoding or anything like that. It was going to be used for like storage. I could actually add this to the existing 2 terabyte. The problem is these things are noisy. They run very hot and sometimes require their own fans to cool them off. This is only going to be spinning when I'm doing a backup. So instead of adding to the heat inside the rig, I'm just going to remove the 2 terabyte, add the 8 terabyte. It should be a very quick swap out. So hopefully nothing will go wrong. You never know when you're talking about computers, but I'm going to get it set up and I'm going to show you how it goes. Now, I opened up this side of the computer for a couple of things. First, to show you my new rig. I have an ice water cooler here, and this thing keeps the CPU temp right around 32 degrees running. It's got plenty of RGB fans, and the RGB of course does absolutely nothing but look pretty. And I have the MSI GeForce RTX 3060, which by the time I got it, just I don't know, a few months ago, is already outdated. The 4 series is out now, going for hundreds, probably double what I paid for this. So not doing that. Got a 1,000-watt power supply right there. And this thing has 3 2 terabyte NVMe drives. They're underneath these guys. I don't want to take this all apart to show you. It's got a couple of expansion cards, as you can see right there. Sorry for my shaky hand. And right here is what's important today. You can see right here, that is a SATA cable and a SATA connector. This thing has 6 SATA connectors, but when you put these drives in here, a couple of them become disabled and a couple of them get cut down on their speed, or the lanes that go directly to the CPU. So I did look at the motherboard manual, which is something I don't normally do. I just wing it and find out later that I did something wrong, to figure out which one of these SATA connectors would not interfere with anything and would be working without issue. So that one that you see it hooked up to right here, and the one below it. So as you see, I only have one SATA cable, and that's where I'm going to be hooking up the drive. Now, on most computers back in the day, all the drive bays would be right here. But in order to save space and to make things look better, what they did is they buried the drive bay back here, which is another reason why I do not want to put one drive on top of the other. This thing is going to get very hot. There is one fan here cooling it off, but it just makes no sense to add the extra heat for no reason. I don't need that extra 2 terabyte drive. Probably donate it to my nephew, who's also a computer freak. I love this motherboard. My last motherboard was an Asus. This is a gigabyte, and it is just the Aorus Elite Wi-Fi 7, which is their latest board, and I'm very, very, very happy with it. Does it have all the connectors in the back that anyone could want? Probably not, but it has everything that I need. The card, of course, has 1 HDMI, 3 display ports. I only need 2 of them. So pretty stark back here, nothing much to talk about. And now I have to flip this thing over to get to the hard drive. So let's do that. And you're gonna not believe how easy this is to swap. However, once we're done, we do need to go into some Windows settings and change it to initialize the drive and make it actually work. The physical part of it is the easiest part in this particular case. All right, first I want to, box is completely sealed. I just want to show you what comes in the box. It's not very much. Sorry for the way this thing is oriented, but I had to get the best angle I could. So there's the drive. There's nothing in it. Comes with no cables. Box is completely empty. No cables, no instructions, nothing of any kind. This is typical of a NAS drive. Sometimes people order these by the dozens. This is the BarraCuda's 5400 speed drive. Obviously this is slower than the 7200. That's what made it $109 instead of $159. Since it's only going to be used for backup, it really didn't make any difference. I'm basically using it as a NAS. So there it is, nothing much to it. Old style, 3.5-inch hard drive with SATA connectors, okay? And very simply, if I'm replacing it, there's not much to do. I'm going to unhook my SATA cable. I'm going to carefully unhook the power cable. You don't want to jar these on either side. You don't want to pull the cable, because if you snap this little guy off here or bend it, it's game over and you're done. And you need a new drive. So there's no point in ruining the drive. I'm going to simply move these out of the way. And this has one of those quick release deals. And there it is. The old drive is out. This is a 7200 RPM BarraCuda 2 terabyte. So there you go. This, like I said, is considerably slower than this, but I don't care. So out it goes. And turn it over here real quick. Out it goes. Simply pull these little guys apart like that. Put it back in. You'll see these little tabs here. Just gonna set it in those tabs. You know, pull this thing apart a little bit, and there, it's back in already. That's simple. I'm gonna slide it back in here. Now I know it. I remembered. I put it on the low horn. The fan is right here, by the way, so it's getting plenty of air right here. The reason I did that is because I have to redo this rat's nest right here. I had to take it all apart to get this drive out. So I'm going to redo that off camera, and then the excess is nicely wrapped. Will go back in this section right here. So a matter of click, click, and that's it. My drive is replaced. However, there is some software work I have to do, and that'll be on the other side of this video once I get this rat's nest all cleaned up. Okay, we're going to fire this guy up and do the rest of our setup in Windows. I'm going to log in, and there was no problems booting up, which is great. Sometimes that does happen. You never know when you do something with a computer. 1 minute everything is fine, the next minute it's not. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into Disk Manager. We're simply going to come over here and type in the word disk. And you'll see something here that says create and format hard disk. And it actually jumped right up at us. I'm going to zoom in on that here a little bit. Okay, that's much better. So you see what happened here? It jumped in and it said disk 0. Now, why this? Usually the very first hard disk you ever put in the computer turns into disk 0. But in this particular case, although it was the last hard drive I installed when I did this installation, it created this as disk 0. It created the original one as disk 1. That's this one right here. So now it's asking me, do I want an MBR or a GPT? Now, if this was the original disk and this was where Windows was going to be installed on a modern motherboard system, you would choose GPT. Actually, when you did Windows, it would probably do it for you automatically. But I have two choices here. I can create a GPT drive or an MBR drive. If I select MBR, it will still work, and it will still work perfectly fine. The only difference is it will not allow me to create a partition over 2 terabytes, which kind of defeats the whole purpose. So in this one, we're going to choose GPT. I'm going to select OK. And now I have here a unallocated disk. That means that if I go into Windows File Explorer here, you can see my drives. This is a DVD drive. This is my 1, 2, 3 NVMe drives. And oops, I have to hide that. Now I can create multiple partitions. I can create 1, 2, 3, 4, 10. It doesn't really matter on a GPT drive. On an MBR drive, you can only create 4. So if I had chosen MBR, I could create 4 2 terabyte partitions. In this case, I'm going to create one very large partition. I don't need it partitioned out anymore. There are some who will say that having smaller partitions speeds things up, and that's probably true in some cases, but I don't need this drive for anything. All it's going to do is store my backups. So I'm going to right click on this. I'm going to create a new simple partition. I'm going to click next. And although it says 8 terabytes, it never really comes out to that. You can see this says 7630. There's always some sort of overhead or some part of the drive missing. I don't know why that is, but every drive you put in, there's always something lower than what it says on the box. I'm going to click next. It's going to ask me what drive I want the drive letter to be. F is fine. I can change that later if I want to. I'm going to click next. It's going to ask me the volume name. So this is going to be the name of the drive when I look at it here. So I want that to be backup. And I have a habit of, since the old DOS days, of not putting any spaces in between drive labels. Sometimes when you're doing restores or whatever, that used to matter. Probably doesn't really matter much anymore. And then have the option to do quick format or not. And the difference would be just checking this or unchecking it. It would do it in the background. Checking it, just what it does is it formats the drive and it allows Windows to create the partition as it goes, as you write to it, rather than trying to write each block. It takes forever to do that. So I'm just going to click next. And it tells you all the parameters you've chosen. Finish. And watch what happens here. Boom. Here's my F drive. It says backup. Here's my PC, C, D, E, F. And now I have my backup folder. Now I'm going to create subfolders. Those subfolders will be labeled C, D, and E, and they'll be related to the backup job. So for instance, I'll create a new folder called Drive C. And that's where all the backups for Drive C will be. So for my backup software, I'm running a paid version of Macrium Reflect version 7. I went on the website. I know 8's been out for a while, and I do pay for software. I'm not out looking for anything for free, especially if it works for me. But I loaded it on here. I took the license off my Windows 10 machine. I put it on this, and it works fine. I tried everything from backing up to restoring, and it worked every time. I don't know what the difference is. I asked them, you know, there's some things for virtual machines and whatnot. I do run some virtual machines, but not very often. So I really didn't see any need to upgrade it, quite frankly. One of the big questions I asked Macrium was, is it any faster? Because this thing could be a dog compared to some other backup programs. And they said, yeah, it should be a little faster. Why don't you go ahead and try it? But I never did. It works good for me. As far as the imaging goes, I have 3 backup sets here. I have the OS drive backup set, the D drive, and the E drive backup set. What I'm going to be doing here in the next few minutes off camera is setting up the new paths, which are going to be in here, C, D, E, and F. I'll be creating these drive paths based on the drive that I'm backing up. You can see those, let's see, right here. So I'm just going to take these drives, letters, and basically mimic them here, and that's where Macrium will now back up the drives. Now I am going to have to run an initial backup because it's not going to see the initial full backup, and it's going to get confused. So I am going to do that here today, or I might actually move them, which might actually be a better idea. So I'm not quite sure. But anyway, I like Macrium. One of the key features of Macrium Reflect is this Macrium Image Guardian. One of the things about having the backups on your machine that you're backing up from is that if you have some sort of ransomware issue, it will try to overwrite or change those files. And if you encrypt the backups with ransomware, you're dead in the water. However, ImageGuard prevents that from happening. You cannot change the image. Only Macrium's software can change the image. In fact, if I go to delete an image, that when this is turned on, I can't delete it. So it's a great little piece of software in addition to everything else. So if you're looking for something that's not only a good backup software, you're not too worried about the speed, you can have them do the backups in the middle of the night if you want. This feature itself is worth it, this Image Guardian. Because again, if you have ransomware, all the backups in the world aren't going to help if the backups are encrypted as well. So, and speaking of encryption, when you do these backups, you can tell Macrium to add a password to the backup so that when you go to mount one of these backups, for instance, if your computer got stolen or if the image got stolen or it was downloaded somehow through malware, it would be useless because you would need the password to open the image. So anyway, that's it for this little tutorial. I'll wrap it up here in a minute. So that's it for this tutorial. I know the video quality and some of the sound issues are a problem, and I know the production value is pretty poor, but my first video in a very long time, many years. Give me a break. I promise to do better in the future. If you found this review helpful, please give it a thumbs up and like, and subscribe. I appreciate your help. Thank you.